All right, everyone, it's time for more 2020 polling analysis. Now, of course, as always, for the people out there who think that I don't already know this, yes, I'm aware that polls can be fudged. That's why I'm using RCP. It is an aggregate, a poll of polls. It was much more accurate in the last election and will always be more accurate than individual polls. The only exception sometimes is YouGov. There's a YouGov poll from fairly recently for the Dem field in some of these states, so we'll be looking at that as well. But we've got to look at the national poll first here. And the tale of national polling here is that I was completely right on what was happening with the polls a week ahead of those numbers fleshing out. What I said was that Biden was still the front runner. He is. His aggregate has stabilized more or less at his long-term floor, which is around 26 or so. That's where he's probably going to stay. He'll rise up maybe if he does something good. Otherwise, he has to be content with that. Warren is now in second place. Did I not predict that that was the case even when the numbers showed her in fourth? That's because her trajectory showed her rising, and it was clear that she was going to be slightly ahead of Harris, who's, I believe, a flash in the pan. Her aggregate has stabilized. She hasn't had a breakout moment like Donald Trump did in 2016. She's having a spiking moment like maybe a Marco Rubio. I would expect her, if she stays in and the field thins, she'll continue to rise. She'll be above 15 where she's at now. But she's not going to be a challenger to Biden, I don't think. Not unless her next debate performance is really good like the first one. There are some people who are going to try to coordinate her. The Clintonians clearly like Kamala Harris because she's far left, but ultimately corrupt neoliberal, a prosecution-heavy, authoritarian, tyrant Democrat hypocrite. That's what Kamala Harris is. She's most like Hillary Clinton out of the field. She's more like her than Warren. Warren has the lying part down, but she doesn't have the past of being like brutal and backstabbing people and putting people in prison for extended periods for simple possession of drugs or truancy like Kamala Harris does. By the way, if anyone from the lower part of the field wants to take down Kamala Harris, just mention her claim about Tupac and smoking weed. And then ask yourself, she says she was smoking weed and listening to Tupac several years before Tupac released an album. Mysterious. I know. And then went on to look at other people who smoked pot and throw them in prison for years at a time. Just a jealous, sort of hypocritical individual. A scam artist. A sham. That's what Kamala Harris will always be. But Warren has shot past her and Sanders. Sanders is falling still. He'll be in fourth soon, probably, unless Kamala Harris collapses early. I would expect her to maintain kind of her level and then slowly recede. I don't think that this is a case like a Fiorina where she shoots up and then shoots back down. I think this is more of a Rubio. You shoot up and then you sort of aimlessly meander off downwards. I think that's what she'll likely do. She's going to be the third tier candidate. Buttigieg, meanwhile, or Booty Judge, whichever. It's funny because either way you pronounce his name, how it looks or how it's supposedly pronounced, always has to do with the ass. And he's in fifth place. And it could be that somebody shoots up ahead of him and solidifies a core. I just don't think that's likely. So right now in national polling, you've got Biden on 26.8. You've got Warren on 15.2, roughly tied with Sanders, but she's going up, he's going down. She's in second, which is what I predicted. Sanders will fall to fourth behind Harris, who's at 15, and then Buttigieg is at 5.3. And that's the segment of the field that is able to win. Meanwhile, Booker actually, despite having a decent first debate performance, fell below Beto again, and he's only on 2.2. 2.2 in the aggregate is not electable. It's not viable. In fact, it's not even clear that if they don't do really well at the next debate and gain a point or two, that they'll be able to keep their campaigns the entire bottom half of the field should drop out within a week of the second debate. Now, they're going to be stubborn and probably not do that. They'll just be thorns in the side of the mainline candidates, causing chaos. But Biden is ahead. Now, we've also got to go through the first four states that'll vote because that's important as well. So first, we're going to flip over to Iowa here and see if there are any new polls as well. No. So it's still the USA Today, CBS, and CNN polls. The latter two are dated, so we're not even going to bother looking at those. There's a higher degree of uncertainty when you do that, but Biden is still ahead here. Biden in first place with 24. Second place is Harris with 16. Now, that's a post-debate anomaly, so I wouldn't read too much into that. Third is Warren with 13, and then you go on through. That would be really bad for Sanders if he comes in fourth place in Iowa. Remember, this is an electability election. Primarily what we have here is Biden has the name recognition and the long-term political clout, allowing him to buoy his support because everyone else is crowded around on the far left, other than Buttigieg, who hasn't managed to build a coalition. And if, by the way, if he, fucks up at the second debate, he's done too. There won't be enough time for him to build a coalition. Even if he's outraising Joe Biden, it's not going to make a big difference. So Biden's ahead in Iowa. Now we look over to New Hampshire. For some odd reason, nobody is conducting polling regularly here. We got 3 polls, all of which are dated, all of which show Biden ahead. His lowest number on there is a 12, though, tied with Buttigieg, actually, in that particular Boston Globe poll. But that's a Boston Globe poll. So the most recent thing we have here is, again, CBS. That shows Biden at 23, Sanders at 20. That would be more in line with expectations. If Sanders loses New Hampshire, he might as well drop out that same day and say, fuck it. If he loses New Hampshire, there's no way forward. Also, there was an interesting article the other day talking about how a lot of the caucus states within the Dem system, the Dem campaign, have switched over to primaries under pressure from the DNC. This was actually a direct response to Sanders' typical outperformance in the caucus states. He won much more in the caucus states than in primaries. In the primaries, Hillary Clinton killed it. In caucus states, he did much better. And so they looked at that sort of statistical fluke. They said, well, we don't want, a non-neoliberal candidate being the nominee. So prepare, Bernie bros. You're about to get fucked in the ass again. So don't say I fucking didn't warn you. By the way, they've switched it around. Nevada, I think, votes before South Carolina this year, so they're listed next. We've got one kind of current poll. The other one's from fucking March, so don't even care about it. Biden didn't even get in until, April, I think. So that one has him out ahead. He wasn't even in the race. It shows Biden with 36, comfortably leading over Warren, who's at 19. Third place is Sanders at 13. He's doing well in Nevada. It'll be interesting if we had current polling. South Carolina. Oh, look, finally we have a state that has a poll that's contemporary from the period of July 7th through the 10th. So it's post 4th of July. Wow, the only poll on any of the 4 most important fucking states for the Dem primaries. I would expect them to have more Republican polling, and Trump's running basically unopposed. This shows Biden at 35. Second place is Sanders at 14, way behind him. Third is Harris at 12. Warren almost nowhere to be seen at 5, and then you meander down the list. Because of electability, I would think that by the time voting happens, most of the people that don't have a political pulse in the field will be getting 0. They'll be getting fundamentally less than 1% of the vote, which means you're going to see a compacting of support for the top 4 or 5 candidates. It'll be interesting to see whether Buttigieg can make the cut. Otherwise, it's the tale of 4 people. If the field is Biden versus 3 far leftists, Biden is going to be nominated, because people who don't like Biden are because electability is the biggest issue. They're going to be looking for which of the leftists is most electable and or most like me. So the feminists will vote for Warren, the racial identity politics people will vote for Kamala, and the economic far leftists or the traditional left will vote for Sanders. There'll be about an even split. But if you split, the majority of a party between 3 people versus a dude who's already got 30% of the vote, he is going to run away with it. You could end up with a candidate, and Joe Biden is obviously not in the greatest of mental or physical health at this point, who may very well have a major health problem during the general election. We are looking at a situation, Joe Biden, if you look at the way he acts, if you look at the way he speaks, he was slurring the other day at a rally. He was coughing. At the end, he was like, what am I doing? He's got some problem. He might have early onset dementia or something. He's falling prey, it seems, to the Hillary Clinton effect, which is the fact that he's an old dude, 5 years older than her, by the way, when she was running, significantly older than Trump. You've got an older dude. He's basically geriatric, trying to keep up with people half his age in some cases. He can't do it. And yet, because of the crowding of the other part of the field, he could very well end up nominated anyway. He could die during the general election. Can you imagine the political uproar, the firestorm, what would happen, and the collapse of the Democratic Party if their nominee drops dead on a debate stage? Oh, Trump killed him just by stressing him out, debating him. Can you imagine what that would be like? Trump would coast to re-election. What are they going to do? Switch horses in the middle of the race? Oh, yeah. Time out, people. Let's pause this. We got to delay the election. Do you know what Trump's core fans would do if the Democrats tried to do that? They'd go crazy. It's not going to happen. They'll keep going. What if it happens like at the 11th hour, like a month before voting? Oh yeah, by the way, we got to print new ballots, guys, at DNC expense, I would hope. Joe Biden's not in the greatest of health. Like, all of these neoliberals have health problems. I mean, because they're elderly. Merkel's got like Parkinson's or DTs or something. Fucking Hillary Clinton, she had health problems before. She had, stroke collective lenses or something. And she, didn't she break her ankle or something? She fell down at some point, cracked her head. She's probably a chronic drunk. She's had many problems, seizures, it appeared. And then you got Biden. He gets up on stage and he can't even pronounce basic words. He made a number of verbal mistakes and slurring during that speech, commensurate with having a little bit, maybe a screw loose, something along those lines. Put him up before Trump and fucking see what happens. He's going to turn into a gibbering wreck. Because I know what Biden's going to do, because he's the gaffe master. He's going to get fiery, because he can when he's antagonist. He's going to try to get fiery, and he's going to lose track of what he's saying, and he's going to go off into a mental fog, or something like that, a syncope. And on the live debate stage with Donald Trump, and he's going to say weird shit that's not going to make sense to anyone, and people are going to say, well, he's already like second-term Reagan. Why would I vote for the dude? If electability is the issue, the Democrats will close ranks behind Biden as well as anyone else. Turnout will be depressed. And yet Biden is still very likely to become the nominee. Nobody has managed to eclipse him. There was one poll in the entirety of the race, including before Biden even announced, for months. There has only been one aggregated period in which one cherry-picked poll showed one number by Bernie Sanders ahead of another totally different cherry-picked poll showing Biden at his lowest and 10 points below the aggregate. That is the only time in the entire primary, that in the entire political season, that any other candidate has had one number ahead of one number from Biden. Only once. And it's never happened in any of the first four starting states. He is way out ahead because everyone else is packed in. As long as they're roughly tied within 5 points or so of each other, there is literally no reason that Warren, Harris, or Sanders would leave the race. And if Buttigieg sticks in to be the neoliberal who's not Biden, that's probably going to end up draining support too. I don't even think that it hurts Biden at this point. He's got his 25-30% hardened core fan base. In two of the first states, he's at 35-40. He's got more support in South Carolina and Nevada. Now, the big thing for Biden is he's got to get New Hampshire. I mean, he's got to get Iowa. He can lose New Hampshire to Sanders. People would expect it anyway. And then it'd be just, oh, this other white dude who's 2 years older gets a state. Fuck, who cares? Biden goes on, gets South Carolina, Nevada. It's kind of obvious what happens from there. It's kind of obvious. That's about all. Peace out.